Welcome back my gentle people, this is Corner Stories and today we have some interesting relationship stories. So let's get into it. Am I wrong for being uncomfortable with my wife being friends with her friend after something she accused me of? My wife and I have this mutual friend, ex-friend for me, let's call her Kate, who we both knew independently and introduced us. Over the years, Kate and I drifted apart but still talked frequently. She's always been more of my wife's friend than me, best friend from childhood, etc., so it's never really bothered me. A few years ago, someone tangentially part of our friend group that I only semi-knew confided in Kate that I solicited her for nudes. This person I had only talked to maybe once or twice and it was only ever about her art, although it's worth mentioning she has a good side hustle drawing hentai. All I ever really said was she was talented at it and I liked her art. I guess one of the pieces I particularly liked was a self-portrait. I won't get too into the details, but it looked nothing like her and was an anime girl, so I'm not sure how I would know that. Kate told my wife about this, who spent a week being upset about it before telling me. I showed her the chats we had and that was the end of it. Edit, I'll add that what I said about the self-portrait was something along the lines of, holy shit, this one's perfect, the lighting and the figure are really hot, you should be doing this as a day job. She apparently only mentioned it in passing to Kate as, interesting, her words apparently. Kate took it upon herself to tell my wife about it. When my wife confronted the friend, she didn't think I was trying to get nudes or anything but thought I knew it was a self-portrait. A few months later, Kate decided to take it upon herself to then tell my wife I asked to see pictures of her feet. Admittedly, I have a foot fetish, something my wife divulged to her which I'm not particularly cool with but I'm not super ashamed of it or anything, so I don't care all that much. The conversation Kate, in my opinion, misconstrued was her venting about how frustrating and objectifying it is that she feels like every guy wants to see her naked, and all I did was sympathize with that and said something along the lines of, yeah, I mean, I'll admit there's a split-second intrusive though about that I'll get when I meet people but it's probably some caveman lizard brain shit. When my wife brought it up, I again showed her the messages, and she agreed it was a misunderstanding. Although when she brought it back to Kate, trying to mediate the situation rather than defending it as a misunderstanding, Kate was adamant I was subtly fishing for nudes and feet pics. Wife didn't ask for this, but I let her go through all the messages again in my phone computer, and she found nothing. Kate decided to cut contact with me and I haven't heard her from her since. Edit, I commented this below but here's the exact conversation I had with Kate. Kate, I'm just so sick of it ugh. Like the one guy from work I told you about. The mentor guy. He offers to take me to a place he knows to find something to wear to the presentation we're giving next week. So I go with him and we're looking and he keeps joking that we should look at lingerie. What is it with men? Like is it all, woman? Must see their boobs. Me, what the hell? Is that the dude who offered to pay for the extra e-learning shit? Kate, yes. I thought he was genuinely being nice but I guess not. Yet another in a long line of men who just want to see me naked. Is it all men? Like I don't get it, it's so fucking exhausting. Me, I mean I've had the passing, she's attractive, I wonder what she looks like underneath her clothes, but they're more intrusive thoughts than anything I'd ever actively pursue because I'm not a monster. Kate, exactly. I have the same thoughts too sometimes but it's like, I don't go around asking to see every hot guy's dick. Me, maybe that's what he's hoping for. Kate, he has a wife too so it's like, so uncomfortable. End OS text thread. I'll see Kate from time to time. Wife will have her over or they'll be talking on Discord. I'll be polite and say hello, but she'll turn her back from me or very blatantly ignore me. Which is fine, if that's what she wants to do, then so be it. But there was one time that particularly pissed me off. They were sitting out back, and I had come through to bring in groceries and put some stuff away in our shed. She had sandals on, and when she saw me, she asked my wife if she could borrow a pair of socks, which my wife obliged. Putting it bluntly, I'm uncomfortable with her being friends with Kate. My wife doesn't have many friends though as she suffers from some pretty bad mental health issues and doesn't get out much, and I don't want to be some controlling asshole telling her who she can and can't be friends with. I just hate feeling like I have to be on guard when she's around, and I particularly hate that my wife, who agreed it was a misunderstanding on Kate's part and probably poor wording on mine, didn't defend me. I haven't told her to stop being friends with Kate, but I have mentioned that maybe she shouldn't invite Kate around if I'm home, or if we're going somewhere and Kate is there, I'll stay home. Wife says I'm just making the situation more awkward and making things uncomfortable for her being that she's her best friend and I'm her husband. For context, some time before this, I had a friend who expressed concern that my wife might be telling me she didn't want me to go out and see my friends anymore. This was one me, as the relationship was new, I had a new job, and wasn't really fond of going out to bars anymore and never communicated this. He was particularly disrespectful about it and I cut him off without question. I don't expect her to cut her off, but I would at a minimum appreciate her telling Kate off when she does particularly disrespectful things. Am I wrong here? Some relevant comments. We also have to add that it's his wife's fault for telling Kate he has a foot fetish. Like, why would you tell about your significant other's kinks, sexual likes and stuff? That's such a weird behavior. Yeah, she needs to stop sharing his business. Sadly, if you think most women don't do this, you're optimistically incorrect. Bedroom stuff and kinks are no one else's business. Maybe it's different if you are non-exclusive with people or hookups, but not in a proper relationship. You don't go telling people what your hubby or wife is into in the bedroom. Though I'm sure more people than I'd like to admit probably do this. Thinking about this, my bestie, whom I love dearly, knows more about everything than literally anyone else in my life, and I don't even share those details either her. Now let's move on to the update. So I ended up showing my wife the original post because we had another argument about Kate. She read through it and some of the comments. I think she had a bit of a coming to Jesus moment as she came and sat down and agreed that Kate has been acting weird about this whole situation. We talked it out and I admitted I wasn't comfortable with Kate anymore and wouldn't stand in the way of them being friends, but I don't want her coming around the house anymore, so she agreed she would 1, not bring Kate here anymore, and 2, have a talk with Kate about what her problem is. Over the long weekend, we decided to forego our usual tradition of going to one of our parents for a big meal and just stayed in and ordered takeout. Wife and Kate made plans to hang out too, which was fine as I had some personal hobby stuff I wanted to log some time on. Kate apparently did not take being told she can't come over when I'm home very well, because she sent me a long message about how I'm controlling and abusive. Wife snapped and called her. They argued on the phone for a while. I didn't listen or anything, but wife told me she set Kate straight and basically told her she needs to cut the shit and apologize to me or she'll cut out Kate. After midnight on Sunday, I got my apology from Kate. It seemed pretty heartfelt and sincere, but I just said, "Thank you for the apology, please understand I'm fine with you and wife being friends, but I would prefer to continue just being pleasant with each other." She didn't respond right away and I went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to pee, and saw she had responded. And this is where it got a bit odd. She sent a photo of her legs with her feet in the frame, in front of the mirror, so I was sure to see all of her feet. It seemed intentional to me, honestly. One foot had a heel on, the other was bare. She accompanied this with the message, "What do you think? Yes or no?" I woke up my wife to show her because I didn't want this too to be blown out of context by her. Wife took a minute to comprehend what was happening and concluded she probably meant to send that to her since they get each other's opinions on outfits and shoes. Bit weird to do at 1 a.m. in my opinion, but made sense. I replied, "Sorry, did you mean to send that to me?" In the morning, she had unsent the photo and message and said nothing else. Later in the day, she called my wife and said she accidentally sent me a picture of her new shoes and her feet were in them, and wanted my wife to confirm I didn't save it to use later. I think this is where my wife started piecing together what some of the comments were saying about Kate being a shit stirrer, put the phone on speaker, and flat out asked if Kate did it on purpose. Kate got angry and asked how my wife could think that. Wife just said, "Because you know he has a foot fetish," and sent him a foot guy's equivalent of a full-body nude. She started demanding she check my phone because she was having a panic attack over the thought of me jerking off to her feet. My wife rarely gets angry or petty, it's just not who she is, but my wife basically replied to that with, "Kate, you should have said something sooner." I thought it was an apology photo for him, so I already jerked him off while he looked at it. There was a huge, hours-long argument that followed, but TLDR, Kate is no more. Apparently their friend group has wanted to stop dealing with her bullshit for some time and all jumped on this to cut her out. Sayonara Kate, you fucking drama queen. And with that awesome clapback by the wife and the satisfying conclusion, we will move on to the next story. Be sure to drop a comment to let me know what you think of this story. Story 2. AITAH for wanting a divorce because my husband insisted that my boobs were fake. I, 30F, do have very large boobs, a 38G to be specific. I've been with my husband, 33M, for about 10 years, and while we have no children together we are happy. Recently he's been checking out my body more than before, and I don't mean in a "let me take you to bed" kind of way, it's more of a "what could you be hiding" kind of way. Now I am by no means skinny, I am 5 feet 5 inches and 180 pounds, nowhere near as good as I could be, but I really don't have any motivation and don't care as long as I don't look like I haven't showered in months and choose to be like that. Now I have a multitude of scars on my body and my husband noticed. One is under my armpit, which I got from running up the stairs with my friend and scraping it against the corner of the railing in my old house. The second one in not even sure where it came from. It's thin though, so I'd assume from my childhood cat, but it goes down my side about 4 inches and on my rib cage. My husband has been getting into more shows about spouses lying to their partners about things, which I do enjoy watching myself. My husband randomly came up to me and started feeling up on my boobs, which isn't out of the ordinary but still random. I asked him what he was doing and he said, "How could you lie to me like that?" I asked about what and he said, "My boobs." I said, "My boobs are real, what are you talking about?" He said no they're not, and that I have 2 scars by my boobs that clearly show I had a boob job. I told him that's not how it works and usually they cut under the boob for that. He said they cut on the side as well and that I'm a liar for not telling him. I told him I wasn't lying and that he was being weird. An argument about them and I left with our cats to my friend's house, the exact friend I'd gotten hurt with. I explained what happened to her and she called my husband and yelled at him. His mother also yelled at him for that, but his dad is on his side. After I agreed to come back home, he said he'd forgive me if I'd just admit that they were fake. I told him that they weren't and that you'd see me when I was skinny and could tell it was because of my weight gain. He bring up the time I had to go to my home state and stay for 6 months because of my grandmother who sadly passed away. My family does eat a lot of fattening foods, and when I left for home I was 125 and when I came back I was almost 150. Those eating habits transferred over to my home life and I never really got back into my healthy eating lifestyle. He continued to pester me about my boobs and so I told him I wanted a divorce, or separation at least. He backpedaled and begged me not to, but I made up my mind. He called me numerous times after I'd left for a week crying and begging me to come home. I told him no and that if he couldn't leave it alone I wouldn't come back. He started throwing insulting names as me, to which I hung up. Now his friends and girl best friend are calling me an asshole of wanting to divorce over a simple issue. Some relevant comments. Oh, someone planted that seed in his thick skull. Given his dad is on his side, I'd guess he's the source of the earworm, which also means he's been staring a lot. There's also the girl best friend that was mentioned at the end. Definitely something along the lines of they're too big to be real. I have a friend who wanted to get a reduction as she was a cup her husband balked because he loved her boobs. She took one of her old bras and sewed an extra liner in, then filled it with sand in each cup and asked him to wear it for a day. He cried from the straps digging into his shoulders. She told him that it was actually worse for her because she always felt their full weight. He told her that night to go ahead and schedule the reduction. Update. I just want to say thank you for all the support from the messages and the comments, but the amount of people asking to see my boobs is pretty concerning, along with the 2 asking to date me or wanting to take me out. But again, thank you for the offer. And to clear something up, when I posted this I'd already been with my friend for 3 days. So it hasn't been that long and I decided to go back home to really talk it out, since someone said someone may be saying something to him. I talked to him about it and his answers constantly changed, from no one made him think that to I'd seen something that said they're making implants that feel more real, which I've never seen anything saying they were, to finally telling me the truth, which was his coworkers were telling him. I asked him how he could think that, knowing he's seen my body change, and he said he didn't know. He showed me the picture of us he showed his co-workers where I was wearing a waist trainer and a bodycon dress. Well, you could still tell I had some weight in my stomach but still a lot in my boobs. I rolled my eyes as I set the picture down and stared at him. He eventually told me that his co-workers were telling him so much that they were fake, and when he mentioned my scars it just caused him to believe it more. I said, so you'd believe your co-workers who you've known for 6 months and know how they act around women over your wife of 10 years? He eventually broke down crying, which was pretty uncomfortable, but then said he'd do anything to make me forgive him. I asked him why would he still think that about me even after feeling them, and he said because he didn't want to admit he was wrong and have me hang it over his head. I will admit I have done that a few times, like when he bleached his whole load by mistake because there were 2 white shirts in the load and he thought adding bleach would be fine, and another time he was messing with the cats after they'd healed from being neutered and were spraying everywhere, not a fun 6 months, and got sprayed in the face. I told him that I wanted him to find a new job and couples therapy like some of you had suggested. He agreed immediately and began drafting his 2-week notice. We both make enough and have enough saved to go without jobs for at least a month and a half, since we have separate finances and a joint account for bills. We both make over $100K a year, with me in human resources and my husband working in medical, so when my husband had an office party for one of the boss's birthday, I wanted to talk to the coworkers who told him what they thought. When I saw them I was personally not that shocked. They were decently in shape men, but still not as good as they could have been with beautiful wives who'd clearly had work done, nothing crazy, just filler and Botox. While my husband was giving his notice to his boss, not the one whose birthday it was, I went to talk to them and their wives. Their wives were shocked at their husbands had said about me and began to quietly chew into them about that, since I assumed they were the reason the wives got some work done. I could be wrong though, but still. My husband and I enjoyed the rest of the party and went home. The next day my husband was pestering me to go into work, am able to work from home or in the building, so I agreed after some questioning and went in. When I came home he was nowhere to be found, but the entire apartment was deep cleaned like I'd been wanting to do, lunch was made, and all the cat appliances like litter boxes, food and water bowls, and cat stand had been deeply cleaned as well. After about 20 minutes of me looking around, my husband came back home. He was a little upset I'd come home earlier than he wanted since the carpet wasn't completely dry. He'd cleaned it with our rug cleaner like I'd wanted. He'd made my favorite food that my grandma had made, since after the funeral I'd inherited her cookbook and some money. My husband then gave me a few of my favorite flowers, which are hibiscus flowers, and a small handwritten note. He used to do it all the time in college, and when I did an exchange program in Brazil for fun, it was a full apology saying how sorry he was and that he should have known to distance himself from his coworkers and should have stopped them from talking about me in a bad light. I smiled and thanked him for the flowers and continued eating. After I'd finished, he'd cleaned the kitchen for me and took me upstairs and ran a bath for me and picked out some comfy clothes for me and gave me a full body massage without it ending in sex. Later, after had taken me out to dinner and paid for it all, he always does, but it's still good to mention, and when we'd gotten home we did end up having sex, but it was better than usual, all focus on me instead of the both of us. I didn't have to give head, and after I was completely satisfied the act was over even if he didn't finish. After that, he'd cleaned me up and gotten me something to drink. I asked him why his aftercare was different than usual. It was usually a kiss and cuddling. He then said that he wanted to do more in order for me to forgive him. He then gave me an even longer apology saying that even after all of this I don't have to forgive him, and he knows he was being stupid for not admitting he was wrong and not backing down, but he'd do anything to get me to not divorce him even if it meant being a stay-at-home husband. I laughed, since he was usually the one wanting to be the breadwinner and wanting me to be a stay-at-home wife, which is why I work from home for the most part so I can still have my own money. I told him that I do forgive him, and as long as he finds another job and we get therapy it was fine, and I wouldn't divorce or do separation. He continuously thanked me and said he thought I'd never forgive him. I said I thought I was being a little overdramatic when I said a divorce, but it's fine. I didn't mention my post on what to do, and we're happy again. Our therapy session is scheduled in the next few days and we're bringing the cats back home soon. Thank you again to everyone who gave me advice and did say I was doing a little too much by wanting a divorce, and I hope you all are good. And that is the end of the story. That's it guys, this is where I will leave you. I hope you enjoyed the stories I had for you. I certainly enjoyed them. Please be sure to drop a like or a comment, and it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I will see you. Corner Stories signing off.